Slow down here. Let's talk about this. A lot of words. Let me give you the overview. We'll get into specific pathologic problems. One's called Bartter, the other one's called Gitelman. Okay? Now we're going to put these together right now because I need you to at least know that these are pathologic conditions that you are mandated to know within the nephron, starting from the thick ascending limb, and then finally end up being at the convoluted collecting duct. The overview as far as common, distinctive, and then we'll get into distinctive features are going to be the following. There are tubular defects in sodium chloride transport and two different places. Think about that for 1 second. If it's a thick ascending limb, how's the sodium being reabsorbed? Sodium, potassium, 2 chloride. If it's the distal convoluted tubule, how's that sodium being reabsorbed? Sodium chloride. Next, thick ascending limb. What kind of diuretic? Loop. What about the distal convoluted tubule? What kind of diuretic? Thiazide. Next, well, to make your life a little bit easier, let us now do our alphabetical order. B before G. At the same time, I want you to go from proximal to distal in your nephron. The loop diuretic, which would be a problem with the sodium potassium 2 chloride, that pathology is called Bartter. You see where it says loop diuretic mimicking Bartter syndrome. Stop there. Where are you? Thick ascending limb. It behaves like a loop diuretic. You tell me now the pathology for Bartter syndrome is dealing with which sodium channel? Sodium potassium 2 chloride. Are we done? Not at all. I have to give you clinical manifestations, and then I must give you the genes. Next, I want you to go distal convoluted tubule. What was the name of that sodium channel? Sodium chloride. It's thiazide sensitive, right? So therefore, this will be Gitelman. What's the next letter? G. Gitelman behaves like a thiazide drug. Now, these are pathologies that mimic the pharmacologic agents in terms of how you want to approach this. Next, impaired sodium chloride reabsorption leads to mild volume depletion, hypotension. Thus, what does it activate? Highlight, RAS. Next, the combination of, why do we call this secondary hyperaldosteronism? Why? If you're losing fluid, then what are you going to release? Renin. How? Secondarily. You give me a differential in which you're releasing aldosterone primarily. Con. You see the difference? CONN, Con syndrome, is primary hyperaldosteronism. When you have volume depletion, this is going to be secondary hyperaldosteronism. Walk through this further. Where does aldosterone work? It works in the distal convoluted tubule. What is it going to do? You see the bolded words there? That's the key. Normal physio. Aldosterone works to do what? To get rid of potassium. You are at risk for hypokalemia. What are you worried about with hypokalemia, please? The more that you get rid of potassium, the more that you have hypokalemia, think about your resting membrane potential. The resting membrane potential is going to become more negative, right? It is going to become hyperpolarized, more negative, meaning that it's further away from what? Further away from threshold. What kind of issues might you have? You have issues with the heart, obviously, and you have issues with skeletal muscle, fatigue. Next, aldosterone gets rid of your hydrogen, result in metabolic alkalosis, respectively. Move on. Okay, now, point by point, we're going to walk through this so that we talked about the overview. Now we're going to give you some distinctive feature for each disease so that you'll quickly be able to figure this out. In the meantime, Bartter. Reflexively, where's my problem? Thick ascending limb, sodium potassium 2 chloride. Gitelman syndrome, where are you? Distal convoluted tubule, and behaves like a thiazide drug, meaning sodium chloride channel. Keep repeating that over and over again. Lay down the foundation. Now come back here. Patients in both conditions have suppressed activity of ADH. Why? Due to physiologic loss of renal diluting capacity. Really? The fact that ADH isn't working properly is why. I told you earlier about that countercurrent mechanism. I told you that if that has been somehow impaired, that you're going to lose the ability to properly concentrate and maybe perhaps even be able to properly dilute. In both conditions, please understand that the diluting ability of the nephron has been completely or severely impaired. Thus, what hormone are you now influencing negatively? ADH. So ADH is going to be suppressed. Make sure you understand that in both conditions. Now, listen here. Concentrating. Remember that sodium potassium 2 chloride? Where? Thick ascending limb. And what's that called when you have the thick ascending limb that communicates with the descending limb? Hello! The two loops, or ends of the loops, are communicating with one another. Can I help you? Is what the thick ascending limb is asking the descending limb. The descending limb says, yes, actually I do. I do need a little bit of help. What might I want to give you? How about some solute so I can give you some water? Oh, well, yes, I can give that to you. So thick ascending limb provides the sodium potassium 2 chloride. There it is. Put to the interstitium, creates a osmotic gradient so the water can come out. Simple. What is this? Countercurrent mechanism. What is this? The concentrating ability. Where's my concentrating ability? Down in the loop. Right? Are you with me? So if you haven't understood the physio, how in the world is the pathology going to come into play? How are you going to make sense of this? So, when you knock out the sodium potassium 2 chloride, what ability are you losing? Good. The concentrating ability. Relatively spared in Gitelman. How come? Where's Gitelman? Good. Distal cavity tubule. What's over there? It's a thiazide sensitive. Sodium chloride. Does that really participate in concentrating ability? No. More so diluting. I'll give you that. But concentrating? Bartter. Much more so. Much more so. In both conditions, though, what about ADH? Suppressed. Take a look at the previous bullet point. Good? Pay attention to this one, because this is a distinguishing feature. Another big one. Another big one. Urinary calcium excretion. Take a look. Stop. Pay attention. Hypercalciuria. Take a look at the suffix, urea. So where is there more calcium right now? In the urine. Are we okay now? Okay. What's happening? If you knock out that sodium potassium 2 chloride, are you able to properly take up your calcium? No. Remember the back leak? Remember that? What was the name of that receptor? ROMK. Good. So if you don't have proper functioning of that ROMK with back leak because the sodium potassium 2 chloride channel has been knocked out due to Bartter, how in the world are you able to properly take up your calcium? You cannot. Urinary calcium excretion is normal or high in patients with Bartter, not the case with Gitelman. Are we okay there? So that bullet point of second and third become very important for you to distinguish between Bartter versus your Gitelman.